and welcome. I'm Danielle, the American. For starters, I would like for you to close your eyes, and I'm going to give you two separate situations. I want you to picture this. You're a teenager. You wake up to your parents continuing their argument from the night before. Both still hungover. You dread getting out of bed to face the day. You go to wake up your siblings. They take forever, so you're late to school. As soon as you walk in the school office, you get dress coded for the holes in your jeans. You enter first period and see the test you forgot to study for, still forced to take it. The long wait is over, and the bell finally rings for lunch. Finally an escape. You get to see your friends. Unfortunately for you, your friends are shunning you. They don't believe that you have depression. You long to go home, but you're avoiding your home life. You feel stuck. Where do you go? The depression consumes you. And now for a separate situation, I want you to picture this. You wake up gloomy, you get out of bed and saunter down to the kitchen. Your mom made you breakfast and drives you to school. As soon as you walk in the doors, you're greeted with hugs and love. You go to first period, then second, and so on. Lunch hits, and your friends talk about nothing, and everyone is in complete bliss, except you. In a room full of people, how can you be so alone? No one believes you have depression. You live this, quote, picture-perfect life. Little do they know, the chemical imbalance isn't a choice. In fact, it's hereditary. You may open your eyes. There are millions of teenagers facing this situational depression and chemical depression, sometimes even both, and they can't control it. According to the FCS surveys I took, 68% of students said that they have witnessed someone with depression or they have gone through it themselves. Teenage depression is certainly not just a stage, it's a force to be reckoned with. Depression is the most common illness. Roughly 350 million people suffer from depression. 70 million of those are teens. 1 in 20 Americans suffer from depression, with 20%, about 1 in 5 teens, developing depression before they reach adulthood. Teens with depressed parents are at risk of developing disorder. 20 to 50% of sufferers have a depressed parent. Sadly enough, fewer than 30% of teens get proper treatment. This is a picture of a brain. The one that's bright and colorful is considered a normal brain. The serotonin levels are like equal, everything's fine, and a depressed brain is where the serotonin levels are low, and the person feels sad. Antidepressants are the most common source of illness, or common sources of treatment. 1 in 10 of people take an antidepressant. And SNRIs, MAOIs, SSNIs, and many more are most common. With all these antidepressants, you would think there must be something out there for everyone. Only 13% of people with antidepressants claim that they actually work. Donna, a local counselor that I interviewed, said, "Today's society is too pill happy. This is not a situation with a quick fix." However, every body is different. I interviewed an FCS student that wants to remain anonymous, and she takes antidepressants along with her mother. They both say that without their antidepressants, they could not function. They say how a local counselor named Kelly Montgomery described it to me. A normal day for a normal person starts about here, and they're, according to the day, it'll go up or it'll go down. So this is a normal person. A person with depression will start about here, and it will either go up, and the antidepressants boost them here to the normal person, and they will go up and down according to the day. And this FCS student described that the same way. It gives her a boost of confidence when she wakes up in the morning, so she may continue her day. She says without her antidepressants, she feels, very gloomy, very sad, very irritable. She sleeps so much, she eats so little. And when she does not take her medicine, believe it or not, she actually cannot tell, but her parents know almost right away. Counseling is another form of treatment. It is best used for situational depression. Psychotherapy is the most common, and it helps people discuss their problems and giving them skills with future problems. With 65% of people going to therapy at least once in their life, 70% of those see a major decrease in stress and anxiety, with nearly 1 in 5 teens attending counseling. 80% of those get the right treatment. Counseling gives someone an insight of what they can't see. Group therapy is also very helpful. It makes people think that they are not so alone. I interviewed a man. He did not go to counseling while he was in his teenage stages, but he says that his depression came from his teenage years. And he says, growing up, he had no parents. He was pretty much he had to raise himself. When he was at the age of 13 years old, he came home drunk for the first time, escorted home by police. He did not have that great of a life. His home was full of drugs and alcohol, and he felt no escape. And he thinks that his what would be future marriages failed because of his teenage life and his depression. He told me, and this is a direct quote, that counseling helped him because being able to talk about problems and being shown a different way of looking at the problems helped me not be so angry all the time. This is what could happen if you do not get treatment. I understand that there's many more outcomes that could become if there is no treatments, but these are the ones that I think stand out the most. Eating disorders are often associated with depression, low self-esteem, and anxiety. The individuals feel the need to change their body in order to be considered beautiful or handsome. Counselors consider these to be the scariest and can often be the most lethal. Anorexia and bulimia are the most common types and are often the most recognized. In some cases, people start with bulimia, then it leads to anorexia. Anorexia is the third most common illness in adolescence. However, not all eating disorders have to do with losing weight. Binge eating disorder is another type of disorder where people feel the need to eat and eat and eat in order to get comfort. Body dysmorphia is probably one of the scariest of them all. People look in the mirror and they see themselves as fatter, and the more weight they lose, the more weight they gain in the mirror. I interviewed another FCS student. She suffered from both anorexia and bulimia. She described her parents, and she said that they didn't believe her and that she would get mocked constantly. She was either too fat or she was too skinny. Her parents would say that she was overweight, and they made her keep a journal full of all the food she ate. But when she decided that that was enough and she needed to lose weight, she would turn to the side and her parents would act like she wasn't even there. She felt stuck. If she's fat, then what did she do? If she's skinny, what did she do? She felt like she couldn't win. Anxiety is another disorder that goes hand in hand with depression. Nearly half of those diagnosed with depression are also diagnosed with some anxiety disorder. Though highly treatable, only 1/3 of sufferers get proper treatment. Anxiety sufferers often feel nervous, even though their thoughts are irrational. They believe they failed, which ties into depression. Anxiety disorders are also the easiest disorder to misdiagnose due to people not really knowing how they feel. Here's a scripture: cast all your anxieties upon him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. Every 100 minutes, a teenager commits suicide. Every 100 minutes, a teenager commits suicide. That's 2 class periods. From the time we get to school to 10-minute break, a teen has lost their life because they could not handle it anymore. With 90% of all completed suicides due to a mental health issue, teens with depression are 12 times more likely to take their life. 17% of all high schoolers have thought about suicide. 9% have attempted, and 3% have completed. Teens contemplating suicide see this as their only way out. They can't imagine life anymore. This right here, the man in the picture, committed suicide. He had several attempts, and his last one was fatal. He left behind 2 kids and a wife. At his funeral, his sister overheard people saying, "How could he be so selfish?" They don't understand. He couldn't take it anymore. Counselors believe parents need more awareness when it comes to suicide rates. If they do not follow the warning signs of their child, then this could happen. Ben Seigler, another local counselor that I interviewed, said, while some parents may be skeptical about the legitimacy of their child's claims of being depressed, those parents who are grieving the loss of a child due to completed suicide would gladly provide insight. Through this presentation, you've heard many stories of people who have suffered. Now you're going to hear the story that I have, the story of how I suffered. My parents divorced at a very young age. I went to my dad's house on the weekends and my mom's house on the weekdays. And I was sexually abused by my dad's step-siblings, my stepbrothers and sisters. My dad didn't believe me. He took the other side over his flesh and blood. My mom went to court and she got full custody of me. Through this time, I went to counseling. It did really help, and my mom also in the meantime met a guy named Bill. He loved me almost as much as I loved him. I remember going for rides in his truck, going to the racetrack, and just having fun. He got in a motorcycle accident, a racetrack accident when I was about 10. And while he was in the hospital due to broken spines and different medical problems, he was diagnosed with hepatitis C. And how to treat hepatitis C is how you treat cancer, through chemotherapy and radiation. He really changed. He was a very happy-go-lucky guy, and he turned very angry. My mom and I would constantly deal with yelling. He would throw things at us, and a few times it turned physical. And I can only imagine what my mom went through when she was trying to defend me. On September 18th, 2012, he was scheduled for a liver transplant. On September 16th, 2012, he died in a motorcycle accident. 2 days before he was supposed to be okay. The police came to my door that day and told me I would never see him again. I would never see the guy who I knew as my dad ever again. I'm sorry. Through the next couple months, my grades slipped. I didn't have a will to live. I lost all insight of actual life. I didn't care about my friends. I didn't care about school. I didn't care about really anything. I just sat there. I just kept thinking, I don't need to be here. In the midst of all that, I was constantly bullied by my family members. They would tell me, why don't you take a few laps around the track at school? Or why don't you join a gym or go on a diet? I couldn't handle it. I dropped a couple jean sizes in a matter of months. I stopped eating almost completely. Through my constant struggle, I like to think of depression as an ocean. You get dropped in the middle, and you can either choose to sink or swim. The more you swim, the closer you get to land. Yes, there'll be times where the ocean decides to sweep you back in, but the harder you swim, you'll get out of it. The church views are all pretty similar. The Orthodox, the Catholic, and the mainline Methodist and the Evangelical Nazarene all pretty much agree that you must help someone with depression. As God's people, it is our job to help those in need. The Orthodox Church sees depression as a serious medical issue rather than a spiritual struggle, and they must help the person cope in their time of need. The Catholic Church has a mission of protecting human life and human dignity. The Methodist Church has an obligation to see that all persons have access to postural and medical care and therapy in those circumstances. The Nazarene Church also agrees that it is a serious problem and people should look towards Christ. Though some churches have most commonly their beliefs, there are some denominations that believe that depression is a spiritual struggle or even demon possession. Demon possession. And those go back to the Greek and Roman eras. In Deuteronomy 32:10, it says, "In a desert land he found him, in a barren and howling waste. He shielded him and cared for him. He cared him as the apple of his eye." Also in Isaiah 41:10, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you and uphold you with my righteous hand." I understand we cannot fully eradicate depression, but we certainly can help. Parents, teens, if you see someone who is in desperate need, help them. Parents, you have the ability to help a child. Teenagers, you cannot get help if you do not speak up. And the pamphlets that my lovely assistants will now hand out, I want you to notice that the first sign, like the first symptom of depression is anger. That was stressed to me by many counselors, and I want to stress it to you. Also on the back is the man, Ben Seigler, that I talked about. He is very great, and at the age of 12 years old, you are legally able to seek counseling help. So all those teenagers, if your parents do not believe you or you believe that you need help, you are legally able to if you are above the age of 12. Thank you.